Aditi,
Hi, I'm Navi.
and welcome to our podcast.
A simple conversation.
I think we're doing this because we want to get the conversation started amongst other people as well about how one feels and just unloading and downloading the things that one goes through every day and simplifying it with a friend.
Yep, that's how this all came about, really, because we've been friends for many years, have many conversations, some relevant, some irrelevant. But what we found at the end of that was we ended up coming to certain realizations just by talking about things going on with ourselves and things happening. And the whole power of a conversation was pretty profound for me.
So what we're going to do is speak about different mental health and overall well-being topics throughout the season.
Yeah.
And
such as stress, vulnerability, anxiety, all sorts of things.
Yeah. And today I think we're going to focus on just opening up and the act of opening up and how it's actually helped us profoundly, like you just said, and how simple it really is. And the stress levels just kind of disappear, even if you're just having a conversation. And in today's day and age where we have so much information available to us, I feel like all of us are hiding behind these either cameras and Instagram accounts
Filters,
and Facebook.
yeah.
And,
That's true.
And we're not actually, and we don't end up being real with one another, where it's actually quite simple.
Because by having a conversation, you're connecting. And I feel like in this day and age, when we're one of the most well-connected societies, we're actually still not connecting deeper.
Yeah.
And that's something that once you start to do that, I think when you come out on the other side, you get an essence of what the other person's going through.
Yeah.
Maybe start relating to that and maybe go in and divulge into how you're personally feeling and getting in tune with your emotions, which all starts with opening up.
Yeah. There have been a lot of times where, you know, it's a lot of people project that confidence and, you know, just confidence in general.
Yeah.
And one is kind of affected by that and one wants to perform for that. But I think what one doesn't realize is that the insecurities that those people are coming with.
Yeah.
And then when you're bouncing off these insecurities off one another, you actually don't end up going anywhere.
Yeah. Because it gets quite intimidating to actually open up, especially nowadays if you're going on Instagram or any social media, you're seeing everyone's lives are flawless, everyone looks perfect, and you just think, oh, why is that not happening to me? I don't look like that. Those insecurities kind of build up, and that prevents you from opening up because you just think that you're never going to be good enough.
Yeah.
But when you actually look into it, I think everyone's vulnerable and at a state of just masking their emotions and not actually being true and opening up. Even though we're sharing pictures and posting things all the time, it's not really getting into who they actually are as a person, and everyone's not sharing all moments, happy or sad. It's just all the good ones are being shared.
Also, what we're going to focus on is the keeping in of all this information that we're talking about, and eventually, over time, it becomes stressful. And I think that's what we're going to focus on in a few episodes from now, which is actually quite interesting because people keep so much in that they eventually have like things like disease that show up in their bodies or pain and things like
tension in
that.
your body and your muscles,
Which is one of the most valid conversations in this day and age right now, because everyone is either sitting in a chiropractor's office or a therapist's office.
True.
So there's definitely something brewing inside everyone, and the relevance of this is has to do with that.
Yeah. And we also spoke about this and how personality traits make a difference to how easy or hard it is to open up. I'm an introvert and I'm quite quiet sometimes, most of the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not really out there loud and proud and speaking all the time. Whereas I've seen extroverts who are very loud in a party, or they are speaking all the time and sharing their emotions and stories. So for me, I would feel that person seems very secure, knows their emotions, knows what they want and all of that. Whereas I'm not in tune with my emotions. So for me to start opening up, it was a bit of a journey, which I'm still learning to do.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think even extroverts do struggle with it because, as we just said, they are masking it and it's not actually being their true selves.
Yeah. They just
Projecting what they want people to see.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, some people are obviously are natural and they are open but it does take a little bit of introspection to get there as well.
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about are the more very overly confident, and it could be a person who is trying to hide something that's happening inside. And I guess what we're talking about is that maybe take that minute, see if you want to connect, because something that's going on inside could actually be lethal.
Yeah.
And masking it is not the best thing.
It starts taking a toll. I think that's the
Yeah.
point where I got to, where it was a burden of stress and all sorts of things was taking a toll on me, mentally, physically. And you get to like a burning point, like a boiling point,
Yeah.
which is a sign for yourself that you need to start seeking help or doing something to make yourself feel better or figure out what is actually going on and what is the problem.
Yeah.
Because majority of the time everyone's busy. No one has time to just sit down with themselves and figure out how I'm feeling, what's going on with me.
Yeah.
And getting in tune with your emotions is probably one of the first steps to actually figuring out how to open up. Because you
Right.
know what you're feeling.
Yeah. It's actually hard. I think like to know also what you're feeling. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's so confusing because you feel something, but it could be a mixture or it's a result of something totally different.
Yeah.
And you think that actually that happened to me when I
Yeah.
first went to my therapist, and I had all these ideas in my mind, and I was like, okay, this is happening because of this reason, and that's happening because of that reason, and she's just like, hold up. This has nothing. And so it's an interesting thing because the mind actually tries to create all of these stories as a defense mechanism for one's actions
Yeah.
and what one is going through. So actually knowing the feelings is like a second step.
Yeah.
But actually arriving to a point where one wants to just have a conversation of things that they just want to reach out to someone is so important, because it's actually the hardest part.
Yeah.
Because you always wonder, oh no, if I reach out, will the other person think of me as a weak person?
Yeah.
For me, opening up has been very important, especially with you and my other friends, is that talking about a certain issue, and for example, I think it was an issue between us where I was a little upset that, you didn't do something, whatever, and then we spoke about it and you were coming from a completely different angle. And what ended up happening was that I had an issue with expectations. I'm sure a lot of other people do in their friendships and marriages and other relationships. And it turned out I had that issue, and now it helped me in many other parts of my life,
Yeah.
with my husband, with my father, with my sister, with my, all my other friends. And that's the reason why we're endorsing this, is because one issue could just lead to another one
Yeah.
that you want to overcome. And that's quite important.
Yeah, because I think there's two ways around it. One is just hashing out a problem with a friend or a loved one or something. So two people have an issue, they sit down, they have a conversation about that actual topic. And most likely you resolve that.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is when you're just speaking about something and you're not realizing what you're going to get from that conversation, that's
Yeah.
when it turns into a more profound
Yeah.
conversation, and how powerful it can be just to speak to someone. Because once we had an issue and we spoke about it, the whole idea of how to have an expectation out of a friendship or a marriage was something that you walked away with.
Yeah.
Rather than us just sitting down and thinking, oh, okay, we had a disagreement and now we're
Yeah.
sitting down to resolve that, which wasn't even the case. It would turn out to be something completely more, another emotion that you were feeling or you must have been doing in your other relationships that came out of it,
Yeah.
which was quite interesting.
I understand, and I think what we should also point out is that the reason why people probably can't open up is because they are concerned about feeling judged. I mean, I have been there
Yeah.
as well. And feeling a burden, or, feeling that the other person might feel like, they're just unloading for no reason.
Or even being misunderstood, because
Yeah.
it's such a personal thing to speak to somebody
Yeah.
and just not knowing how the other person's going to receive you
Yeah.
is quite daunting. So you would
The
rather
that
refrain.
feeling
Yeah.
of rejection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or someone not understanding what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Because it's quite hard to sometimes explain an emotion or how you're feeling exactly.
Yeah.
And that might be scaring people away from actually opening up.
That's true, actually, because what actually one must remember is that the other person's always coming from their own baggage and their own mindset, and so they might perceive what you're saying completely differently, but it's not something that they're trying to make fun of you
Yeah.
on, or purposely not trying to understand. I think they are trying to understand, and that you might just have to
Yeah.
take another route in explaining it to them.
It's trusting. So whether you're having an issue or you are looking to speak to a friend or a loved one, or if you want to take it professionally and speak to maybe a therapist, who's someone who doesn't know your situation completely but can come from a professional angle and help you in that way. So it depends on what you're comfortable with and how you are trusting somebody or letting your guard down.
Yeah.
That will be the first step in initially being able to open up.
And it's quite a liberating experience, because the second you get over the fact that you are going to actually unload your personal, deepest, darkest secrets to this other person, who of course you trust, but still, it still comes with a little bit of anxiety. After that, it's such an easy road. I mean, and then the perspective that one can get is so important for the person who's seeking it, is because when you get stuck with your own thoughts, your brain kind of comes up with all these essays and reasons for, you know, thinking in that way. And the second you have perspective, you can just feel so liberated. And that problem actually might not be such a big issue, and it's easy to overcome.
Because you can't self-diagnose your own issues,
Everything.
I don't think. Because if you're just sitting there and dwelling and these thoughts are in your head, and you're just speaking to yourself in your own brain, you're not really going to get it resolved or understood. Whereas if you're sharing it, like a problem shared is a problem solved. If you're sharing it, speaking to someone, it would possibly get a better conclusion than keeping it to yourself.
That's true. And I think that's why we're doing this podcast, is to just start these kinds of conversations with people, because people, I mean, us and our friends, and just because of that, I think people just around us will be suffering from all of these kinds of anxieties and pressures and stresses, and just to start these conversations.
Because the other side of not opening up could be fatal, severe depression, anxiety, or something fatal as suicide, which is more and more rampant nowadays. And it's a scary thing to think that if you're withholding everything and keeping it bottled up, it could lead to something or a state of your life that you do not wish to be in.
That's very scary. That's super scary.
So it's kind of just starting by taking a first step and opening up and trying to share your emotions and conversating.
Yeah. So I hope this resonates with you guys. And clearly we are not experts, and we don't even say that we
or
are.
Claim to be.
Or claim to be. We just hope that you guys can share your stories, if there are any, with us, and we can have a back and forth together.
Yeah. So we hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and what we would like everyone to take away from it is just start having a conversation with somebody close to you, a loved one, or if you're not comfortable with that, maybe seek a therapist. But in conclusion, I think we should all be sharing out what's going on with us and not bottling it up.
Yeah. Bottling it up will just lead to anxiety, and especially in this day and age where we have so much social media, and most people just end up expressing themselves through those portals. It doesn't actually lead to any physical or verbal contact, which is kind of scary, because you're kind of surrounded by 1,000 people, but you're sitting alone in a room. So that kind of loneliness has to somewhere be overcome.
And it's just taking it back old school and actually speaking to someone rather than just connecting on social media. Let's start talking.
Taking it old school, I like that, by the way. Having someone to actually in front of you, have a conversation, it's so much more meaningful.
A face-to-face conversation is the way forward, and we hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and tune in next week where we will be speaking about vulnerability.
Ooh.
It's a big one.
This is Aditi.
I'm Navi.
See you next week, guys.
Keep talking.